Junior Geniuses, it's Professor Thomas in lesson number 6, pre-genius mapping course. The name of this lesson is called Structural Clues. Before we jump into the lesson, let's go ahead and make an easy to understand definition of what a structural clue is. To put it quite simply, a structural clue is a word or a small grouping of words that tell you what the author is doing and tells you where the author is going to go next in the writing. Structural clues that are very common are, for example, for instance, since, in conclusion, therefore, thus. But yet, however, although, and on the other hand. These are the most common ones. However, there are more than just those. These are the ones that we'll see most frequently. If you look over here, we can break down all of the structural clues into 2 different groupings. The first grouping here is structural clues that I consider to be together. That means the author is staying in the same direction. If we say something positive, then we will continue in the next sentence being positive. Notice that I'm using the good stinky rule. Let's go ahead and illustrate these structural clues with an example over here. Jimmy is a fast runner. Using the good stinky rule, if you're a fast runner, that is positive. Down over here, we'll take the first structural clue that says, for example, and we put it in here. What comes after the structural clue, for example, is going to have to give you an example of what they said earlier. Hey, Jimmy's a fast runner. So if Jimmy's a fast runner and that's positive, our example is going to have to be positive as well. That's why I call them together. The direction or polarity, as you would say, would be going in the same way. You can also illustrate a together structural clue with arrows pointing in the same direction. Going back to our example, Jimmy is a fast runner. For example, he ran the 100-meter dash in 10.9 seconds. When you run 100-meter dash that fast, it's definitely positive. Positive and positive will go together. That's why we call them structural clues together. The first grouping, for example, for instance, and since, these words will tell you that what comes after those words is going to be an example to illustrate what they said earlier. If what they said earlier was the topic sentence, then these are going to be details to support that. Notice what I said. This tells you that you're about to see a detail that is going to support a previous statement that we called a topic sentence. If you look at the second grouping down here, these 3 common words, in conclusion, therefore, and thus, tell us that we are going to see a conclusion. Not always, but a lot of times, you will see these words down here, in conclusion. That tells you what you're about to see is a conclusion of what you saw earlier, and what you saw earlier was the topic sentence and details to support that. For our purposes, what we want to do here is we want to simply put a circle around our structural clues to identify that we realize that the author is doing something here. It's kind of like a landmark. It's like a road sign. You circle this, and now you understand what's coming next. Together, we have structural clues that are considered opposite. And these structural clues that are opposite, another word for them you will see when we get to ACT is called flag flip-floppers. And flag flip-floppers, or opposite structural clues, are going to switch direction. Let's go ahead and illustrate this with a paragraph. This paragraph says, Susie loves candy. In combination with our topic sentence here, we will use the good stinky rule. When she loves candy, that is positive. We see our first flag flip-flopper opposite structural clue, the word but, you know that what comes after the word but is going to have to switch directions. If Susie loves candy, we will have to switch from positive to negative. Just by seeing this word but, you know the author is going to switch directions. So it's important for us to identify that by simply putting a circle around it. An example of this would be, Susie loves candy, but candy is not good for kids. You see how we switch directions. The other way that we could use this, it's still switching directions, is this. Susie loves candy, but she does not eat it very often. Well, when you're a kid and you don't eat candy very often, that's pretty negative to me. So you see, what we're doing is we're flipping the author's opinion. It's important for us to realize this because this will help you follow the train of thought with the author as we get later into the program in the Genius Mapping course and eventually into the Genius Mentoring program for ACT. You see that authors will love to use these and ask you questions about these. For ACT, this is a flag flip-flopper that basically tells you the answer is going to either be right here or right here. That's why I have kids circle them, because ACT hides the correct answer either just before or right after these words. These are the most common flag flip-floppers, opposite structural clues, but not all of them. You may see others, but these are the most common ones. But yet and however are the three absolute most important ones. Whenever you see these, you need to be sure to circle these. The next two, although and on the other hand, these words are quite common as well. There are other ones like conversely and so forth, but they're not quite as common on ACT or in writing at this level. So right now, just worry about these 5. Let's go ahead and scroll on down and take a look at a couple examples. Example number 1. Jen is good at many sports. Good. Using the good stinky rule. Positive. We circle the word for example, because you know what comes after, for example, is going to be an example of Jen being good at sports. She made varsity in 9th grade. Using the good stinky rule, we label that as positive. Positive, positive. It's a structural clue that goes together. Example number 2. The weather was nice and warm yesterday, but it got a bit too hot at noon. The weather was nice. That's positive. Warm. That's a positive word, using the good stinky rule. We circle the word but, because this is a flag flip-flopper. That is an opposite structural clue that tells you the author is going to switch directions. It got a bit too hot. When it is a bit too hot, it's negative. We switch directions using flag flip-floppers. Note, the good stinky rule in combination to help you see the sentences are either together or the sentences are opposite. Let's go ahead and do a quick review for all the things we've learned in lessons 1, 2, and 3. The first thing, number 1, lesson number 1, we talked about our topic sentence. Our topic sentence is going to be the most important. It's going to be the big picture for the paragraph, and we have to identify what the topic sentence is going to say. To make it easier to understand, you want to identify the noun, which is a person, place, or a thing, and the verb, which is an action. Some other things that we talked about in lesson number 1, topic sentences are paramount. We learned about details. Details are going to support the topic sentence. These details we saw here in this lesson. will be structural clues that are together. The third thing is a conclusion. A conclusion will come at the end of one paragraph, or it will come at the very last paragraph in a passage. If you have a passage that's 10 paragraphs long, the conclusion will come from paragraph number 10 at the bottom. Be sure you understand and you're able to follow the train of thought of what the author is doing. In the second lesson, we talked about the Scooby-Doo technique. The Scooby-Doo technique says this: the author is going to say the same thing throughout the passage. All they're going to do is reword using different vocabulary words. Scooby-Doo is hungry. Scooby says, "Gee, is it lunchtime yet?" Both of those things say Scooby-Doo is hungry. Why would he say, "Is it lunchtime yet?" if he wasn't hungry? Scooby-Doo says the same thing, the same concept, but they're going to use different words. So what we want to do is find out what they're doing in our topic sentence and then look for words that say the same thing. That means the noun and the verb in the topic sentence should be similar to the nouns and verbs that are in the details, Scooby-Doo style. Number 3, we saw here again. It's the good stinky rule. The good stinky rule tells you that the author has a hidden opinion about the subject matter. The good stinky rule can be categorized as either plus or minus. If you see words that have a positive tone, simply put a plus above them. If you see words that have a negative connotation or tone, go ahead and put a negative symbol above those. Number 4. Lesson 4, we learned about the author's timeline. The author's timeline. If we acknowledge that this is how people write, we are able to follow what the author is doing without reading every single word. This is going to help you predict what the author is going to do and make sure you understand where the author is in the argument or the paragraph. The author usually will start out with background information, then it will move to more present information, and then it will move to the most current information or future information, where we could take this, where they will be in 10 years from now. Lesson number 5, we talked about cultural coding. Cultural coding is basically keeping yourself interested and making yourself feel comfortable by bringing in outside information from other areas of your life. Watching movies, watching YouTube, listening to mom and dad, going to school, studying, reading a book, walking around in the mall, seeing different people, going on family vacations. Cultural coding says if you can relate outside information into the passage, you're going to actively understand more and you're going to be able to predict where the author is going to go next. And lesson number 6, we just talked about structural clues. Structural clues are words that suggest where the author is going to go. Structural clues can be categorized as either together or opposite. Together structural clues would be words that would suggest details. For example, for instance, and so forth. And opposite ones would be but, yet, and however. There you have it. It's a quick review, and it is a finalization of lesson number 6, structural clues. We will see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.